place where you cannot purchase a review is on
Rank My Agent.
Rank My Agent.
That goes straight into realtor.ca, so you can easily find them on realtor.ca.
It's the only place. That's like if I look at a realtor, if I'm referring somebody to another piece of business and they have Rank My Agent and they've got like 10 or more reviews on Rank My Agent, that's real.
Yeah.
The other thing that I do when I look at reviews is I look for the worst review.
Yeah.
I want to know like what went wrong. And a lot of those you can kind of, you're like, okay, well, this person either wasn't a client or it's not an appropriate review, whatever. Like sometimes there's that.
Yeah. People not being reasonable.
Or my mom.
A special category.
My mom left me a 3.5 star review out of 5. The reviews that, like the actual words that she used were really good. And I was like, I saw it come in on Rank My Agent. I'm like,
you're grading on a curve here.
I'm like, WTF? And she goes, listen, everybody has 5-star reviews. Very few people look
No one will read a 5-star.
at the 5-star review. Very few people look at that and think, wow, that guy did everything perfect. They're gonna scroll until they see the lower reviews. My 3.5 star review is gonna be one of your lower reviews. And then they're gonna read what I wrote. You're welcome.
I do that. I actually do that. I don't even read the good reviews. I go to like the 3, the 2, and then those.
Those are the ones that you want to read. You want to know like what went wrong here.
Yeah.
Because things go wrong, like no matter what. Like we make mistakes. It happens.
Yeah.
And so the question is like, how did you fix it? What did you make right? Like there's more to be seen there. So anyway, a couple of things just to kind of about reviews.
Who I'm looking at multiplexes for, and so investments in general. And I wanted to talk a little bit about like the opportunity, and also with the condos. If you're looking for a home and own a condo, the opportunity to rent it out.
Yeah.
Which is what we actually tell our clients first.
Keep it if you can.
You can.
Yeah. What I would say first of all, like, I think it's a little bit strange for people to hear a real estate agent not trying to sell something. I think that's a little strange, and it needs to be qualified. We're in the wealth building business. This is an important distinction. We're not salespeople. We're advisors, okay? And if we were salespeople, then we would have our shelves stocked with product and we'd be in control of selling that. How many houses would you like? Right? And we could just pull them off the shelf and give them to people. It's not what we do. We're advisors. And so if we were to properly advise somebody we cared a lot about, AKA our clients, then how can we make it so that you are in a position 10 years from now because of your investments in real estate? I have regretted every sale that I've ever done personally. I wish that I could keep everything. And what we want to do is advise people on how to make that transition from having to work to not having to work. Everybody, like if you do it right, you like your work and you'll continue to do it. But the only way that I know to get that sort of freedom is to have either a business that is incredibly successful or create residual income through real estate is the easiest possible way to do that. Anybody can do it. The problem is that I think that when a lot of people start in real estate, they buy their first property, you should enjoy that property for a year, right? Just buy it, enjoy it, do what's necessary, because the first year is hard, right? The first year is like you buy something and you're like, shit, now I'm not going on vacation, we're not eating out, we're having to like really tighten down. So enjoy the property, because you don't got nothing else.
Nothing else to enjoy.
Nothing else you get to do. Enjoy the property. At the end of that year, start making plans to buy your next property and assume that you're renting this one, okay? So how can you start saving for your next down payment? How can you start saving, what equity are you going to be able to pull out of this particular property to be able to afford the next one or whatever? But if you start making the plan that you're not gonna sell this right from the beginning, that this is going to remain an asset in your portfolio, then what comes next is you buy the next one and you keep this one, and now it's breaking even or better. You don't want to be feeding it.
Yeah.
Then, if you're good, then you can stay in that house, and then you can start buying other properties from these properties using equity, using savings, whatever. I saw this awesome video from Barbara Cochran this morning, and so she wanted to buy her first New York apartment, $85,000. It was $85,000, and she walked away from the deposit because she chickened out. Whatever the deposit was at the time, it took her 7 years to be back into a position where she could afford to buy something. The market was outpacing her ability to be able to save.
I mean, from $12,000 or $16,000 to like $1 million or $2 million.
Albany, no parking, 2.7.
Yeah.
My kids will be buying houses in approximately 25 to 30 years from now. How much is Albany going to be worth in 25 to 30 years from now?
Like 10.
Yeah.
Not less than 7. Crazy. There needs to be does there need to be a cap? Or do we get into a situation where more houses are rentals? More houses are being split up. Like those houses out in the West End, at one point they were all single family residences.
Yeah.
And like you go all in around that sort of like Brockton Village kind of area, all of those, like that
They're
was
all
like
divvied up.
where all the rich people used to live. They were all detached, like all these like big houses down like where the Gardner now runs through. You go just north of there, and they're all cut up into rooming houses and multiplexes.
Yeah.
Like we're just all of us going to live in smaller and smaller spaces, and
Yeah.
so the answer to kind of go full circle all the way back is own the properties. Those are great, like the multiplexes that you sent me. Those at one point were mostly single family homes that have been cut up into multi-residential. The legislation now is, they call it like disposing of the yellow belt.
Yeah.
Okay, so the yellow on the City of Toronto map is single family residential. Okay, you legally cannot have more than one unit, and so now they're gone. 4. So garden suites, basement apartments, cutting third floor and second floor 1 unit, main floor 1 unit, basement 1 unit, garden suite going in the back. This is the future of what's going to happen in Toronto real estate, because at the end of the day, $7 to $10 million for a single family detached home is completely unaffordable unless you can subsidize it with additional income. Rents are going to continue to be driven up. Affordability is going to continue to be a problem. We are not, it's not us sitting at this table doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. It's not real estate agents that are doing this. It is the economy. It is the sellers. It is
Supply and
the
demand.
supply and demand. We're not driving this. Like if I list a house for too much, it won't sell. Right? It's happening right now to us.
They took it to like 2.6. So if they spend 2.6 per property, they can buy fewer properties, but they can get nicer units and probably maybe obviously higher paying tenants. So is that a good trade-off versus having more unit, maybe diversifying more, but then
Let me ask you guys a question here. I'm interested for your opinion. If you had $5 million, would you buy 2 multiplex, like a 3 to 4 unit homes? Would you buy 2 of those? So you can cumulatively between the two, you can have 2 detached homes that have 6 to 8 units in it. Okay, would you do that? Or would you spend that $5 million on 6 condos?
I would probably do 1 multiplex and 3 condos. Like I would diversify.
Diversify. Okay.
I mean, at least, because if you own investment properties, you're always putting aside for repairs anyway, right? So it's not, or you should, I think. Because I mean, like the condo fee, obviously, you need to have it for repairs and things like that. But what I don't like is the fact that you own in a building with other people, so you're not the only person whose use is impacting the building, and you're not in charge of all the decisions.
I just think there's more appreciation in the detached space
And there's
too,
more
right? Because
I feel like maybe there is a balance between how many detached you can buy that are not too expensive but also not too cheap, that they end up being in like really bad neighborhoods or not desirable units that are going to be hard to rent.
Personally, I tell you what I would do is I would look for mixed use, residential and commercial. I would look for that. I think that there's, the advantages to commercial are obvious. There's no LTV, but you're also susceptible to changes in consumer demands or whatever, whatever happens to be.
COVID.
Yeah, COVID happened. Oh, screw, you're gonna empty now.
Yeah.
Restaurants have their own set of issues that come with them, but there are some good long-term tenants, like the people that Remax Hallmark rented that place there since 1983. That was across from the subway station, triple net. So the owners basically paid nothing for the operations of the building and collected the rent. Pretty good. The other thing that they did that's very, very smart is that particular location is now perfect for development. So if you can, this is where I think you want to look for this.
There's an exit
You want to look
strategy.
for this trifecta, yeah. You want to have an exit. You want to be buying in a place that's going to have a really strong exit. Nothing stronger than being in the way of development. For me, like if I was out there looking right now, I would be looking, along or close to major corridors, on corners. I would be looking for something that has a mixed use. And this is where, like, if you're gonna go down this road and you're gonna buy something that's income producing, you should be working with somebody that really understands this asset.
Yeah.
Like, don't hire your nephew because they have their real estate license. Don't do that. Hire a professional that really understands the product. And I will say clearly, there is a point where commercial becomes too commercial, and you need to bring in a real professional, because there is a dividing line. Whereas like residential and commercial become two very different animals. So once we get into like, if we're talking about like plazas and stuff like that, I bring in my boy Matt. I don't deal with this. If it's a storefront with some res on top, I can handle that.